As a gardener, it is a temptation to grow just about everything under the sun, but there are 9 crops that us here on the Epic Gardening team would grow every single season, and in this video we're going to show you exactly what they are. My first must-grow veggie is, believe it or not, squash. This is something that most gardeners, by the end of the season, you're so sick of it, you're literally chucking it at your neighbor's house, you're gifting it to your friends. But this variety, center cut squash out of row 7 seeds, is really sort of a standout in the squash category. So I'm gonna harvest one and just kind of show you it really quickly. Look at this thing. So this is it in its summer format. It can certainly be grown all the way through and stored as a winter style squash. You can eat it in either format, but this in its more green and less mature state is really when you wanna have it. So the Tramontino squash, the Italian one, is super long necked. This, of course, the neck is long, but not as long. And the flavor is really good. It's dense, it's not watery. It's, as you can see, extremely productive. We have all sorts of little baby squash forming along the entirety of the plant. I actually see a little bee in there pollinating that one as we speak. It's also great as a cover over certain parts of your garden. For example, this arugula, you can see this is going to seed. So what I want to do is actually come through and clip this stuff off, but the squash leaves can actually act as a bit of a shade cover for some of your more sensitive plants like this arugula. I mean, as we go into summer, it's not really going to want to be growing in this environment, but if it's shaded for a little bit, then it can be. And the summer squash lets enough light through, but stops enough of the heat that it can be a good sort of companion planted crop. But the center cut squash is my first pick for a crop I will always grow.
The number one thing that I will always grow no matter what is a tomato. Tomatoes in general are by far my favorite garden vegetable. Nothing gets me more excited than growing tomatoes every single spring and summer. You just can't beat the flavor, aroma, texture, you name it, on a garden-grown tomato. I haven't even found a farmer's market tomato that competes with a homegrown tomato. So tomatoes, definitely, bar none, I will be growing no matter where I live. I'll figure it out. Even if I'm in Antarctica, I'll figure out a solution. But when it comes to a particular variety of tomato, our personal favorite has become the Cherokee Purple tomato. So it's not just a pretty tomato, it has this kind of purplish brown color to it, but it has such a rich, complex flavor that other tomatoes just don't really have. And in particular, what I mean is that a lot of tomatoes that you get will either be sort of sweet or acidic. The Cherokee Purple to me is a very perfect balance of that sweet and acid flavor, but it also has this deeper, rich, sort of earthy, umami kind of smokiness to it. I don't know how to best describe it, but it just has this flavor that's deeper than a regular tomato. The other thing that we really like about it is it has a really nice, firm, but kind of silky flesh to it. So it's just wonderful sliced up on some fresh sourdough bread, in a salad, just eating it straight up with salt. I love Cherokee Purple tomatoes, and that's what this guy is right here. You can see I already have about, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so fruit, and they're all hanging on this trellis net, which is doing really wonderfully. So Cherokee Purple, definitely try it if you haven't, definitely grow it if you haven't.
One plant that I always have in the garden is kale. So being in the Pacific Northwest, this climate is perfect for all sorts of brassicas. It's cool and moist, and for these cool season crops, they do really well throughout the year. So with kales, I've grown many varieties, some of them quite frilly, some that grow really, really tall, but I have fallen in love with Dazzling blue kale with its flat leaves. So blue-green leaves, and they have this beautiful striking purple midrib that adds a lot of ornamental value, whether you're growing it in the garden or in a container. And I find with a flat leaf, it's a lot easier to spot aphids. And if they're on the underside, and actually there's not a lot of space for them to hide out, you can easily blast them off with a jet of water and they're just kind of gone. So it's a great plant, really delicious. And what I also like to do is grow them into these big, tall plants. So I let them overwinter and flower in the spring for the bees. And also, if you didn't know, the yellow flowers are edible.
The second crop I will always be growing in my garden is garlic. And as you can see, an abundance of garlic. Once you figure out how to grow this crop successfully, it's taken us maybe 2 years to figure out for our climate either the right varieties or the right techniques, but this is such an absolute staple because it stays good for so long once you're done growing it. And come on, you use it in pretty much everything in your cooking. So for example, let's just take an example one right here like this, right? So here's a nice head of garlic. It's been sitting out for quite some time now. And all I really need to do to prepare this for storage is just give it a little trim on the root side here. So the roots are nice and trimmed up, and I can come through and just chop off the neck. There you go. And if there's a little dirt on it, I just brush this off and take maybe one of the papery layers away. And there you go. You have an absolutely gorgeous head of garlic that you can store. So if you're storing hard neck, it'll store 3-4 months. Soft neck will store 6 to 9 months. And like I said, once you figure out how to grow this crop, it is one of the best things you can have for long-term flavor in your kitchen. So we have a couple guides, actually 3-part series on growing garlic. I highly encourage you to check out, but we've tried it for many years. We have a lot of success with it. That's why it will always be in my garden.
The next item on the list is actually hidden underneath this cover right here, which I will reveal and show you in a second. But that is the Biquinho pepper. So these are also called little beak peppers. They're popular in Brazil. And we've been growing the yellow and the red variety for a while now. It's just come to be one of our most favorite peppers to grow. It makes a really fantastic hot sauce that has this really rich, sweet, tropical flavor to it, but also has some tartness and the perfect amount of heat. These are the kind of pepper where you could actually just grab it and eat the whole thing raw. And it definitely has a kick, but it's not enough to like knock you out. So that's the kind of peppers we like to grow. We like growing sweet peppers, and we like growing slightly spicy peppers, the kind where you could actually eat the whole thing and appreciate the flavor. So let me take off this cover and show you what it looks like, because it's a nice little plant. So here's the little Biquinho pepper itself. It's honestly a very sort of adorable plant. It's got these little leaves and tiny little flowers and peppers. But once this thing gets going, it absolutely gets going, because anything that makes smaller peppers is going to be producing way more volume of actual pepper, like individual peppers, than you would from a larger one. So you could already tell right away, this is a pepper from Europe right here next to it, which has this big leaf. And this one has this really nice small leaf, which is typical from this type of pepper. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention about this one is that this one will actually produce well into our winter. So meaning like November, I'll actually still be getting ripe fruit that are still flavorful and delicious. So if you're looking for a pepper that does well in a variety of climates, including our coastal climate and including into winter, the Biquinho pepper is not going to just do it for you. It's also going to provide a very delicious little pepper that could be used raw, pickled, in hot sauces, cooked, you name it. Great pepper to have in the kitchen.
This tall structure behind me here doesn't have anything on it quite yet, but very soon both the front and the back will be covered with pole beans. Now, I love growing pole beans because the plants are super easy and they are not fussy. And I like training them up nice and tall. Not only is it beautiful, but it makes for easy harvesting. Actually, I go down here and harvest all the stuff that's dangling inside. And another tip with harvesting, if you're not too fussy with the variety, go for ones with colorful pods. I like purple and golden podded ones as opposed to green ones because you can see them a lot easier against the green leaves, making harvesting really fast and easy. I currently have 2 favorite varieties. First one is Trionfo Violetto, which is a slender Italian variety. It has purple pods, very sweet. Unfortunately, when they're cooked, the purple disappears and turns green, but the flavor is still there, whether raw or cooked. And there's also Gold Marie, which is a flatter Romano style, very sweet, crisp, and delicious. Now, one thing I forgot to mention with pole beans and why I love growing them is there's a lot of organic matter up here. At the end of the season, I chop and drop and let all of those leaves and the stems lay on top of the soil surface, and that protects the bed as we enter the winter months.
I think it's no surprise that the third plant I'm always going to put in the garden is a potato. I've grown these in just about every way you could humanly think of. And in fact, in 2019, you guys remember I lived off primarily potatoes for a month when I tried my apocalypse survival challenge. So potatoes always have a place in my heart. But as a edible crop to put in the garden, you're not going to find something that is more calorically dense and easier to grow. So it's the combination of those 2 factors that make potatoes a must plant for me. For example, if I want to plant these, I'm using something that's a little bit absurd. It's the power planter attachment for just a standard drill. I really like this, but you just come in, drill down. You have a potato that is chitting or the eyes are sprouting. Throw it in, cover it up. Barely water it ever during the course of its life as soon as it sprouts. Problem solved. So we just Calories. Calories. Hash browns. French fries. It's just that easy, guys. Throw some mulch on, you can hill them if you want. We've done a couple different videos on different potato methods, grow bags, in ground, in raised beds, etc. Pretty much all of them work. I prefer this method where you bury them deep and ignore them. You'll get an incredible amount of produce coming out of the garden. And honestly, you'll probably get surprise potatoes coming out every now and then as well. So potatoes, for that reason, are my third plant that I will always have in my garden.
The last item from my 3 is actually a little bit of cheating, and I'm going to say it's herbs, herbs, and herbs. So right here I'm sitting before my herb bed, and in here I have things like pineapple sage, French tarragon, chives, thyme, green onions, cilantro, dill, parsley, sage, and basil, and chamomile. So I love herbs. We use them every single day. And if there's one thing that you could do in your garden to transform the way you cook and eat, it's to actually grow your own herbs. They have way more flavor. And usually when you buy herbs at the store, it's really expensive and underwhelming because you have to throw away half of what you bought. But the beautiful thing about the garden is that as you plant it, you can just pick exactly what you want whenever you need it. So it's really a wonderful thing. I highly recommend everybody start an herb garden. And let me tell you, I've got a whole bunch of herb seeds because I love trying new herbs. But if I was going to choose a favorite, I would highly recommend you guys try Savory. This is summer savory, and I personally like it a lot because in Bulgaria, it's the primary sort of seasoning herb of choice. There's also winter savory, which is a lot hardier. And in our zone, it's actually perennial year-round, giving us fresh herbs year-round. So herbs, don't sleep on the herb garden. And if you haven't, definitely try out summer savory.
As much as I'd love to grow beefsteak tomatoes, where I live, the growing season is sometimes cut short by cold springs or early fall conditions. So cherry and currant-sized tomatoes are my best bet. There are 2 cherry varieties which are kind of my favorites, and they're actually quite similar: black cherry and chocolate cherry. Both of them have this dark brownish red skin, and flavor-wise they're sweet, smoky, and syrupy, so they're very, very delicious. And what I love about the plants themselves is that the fruit are borne on these large trusses. So not only is it easy to keep track of the fruit on the vine, but at the end of the season, when I do need to collect the unripe fruit off the plant, I can snip the entire truss off, take it inside, and it's a lot easier to manage than having individual fruit that you're trying to ripen indoors. I also like growing currant or wild tomatoes. Yes, the plants do get kind of big and sprawly, but the fruit is quite unique and flavorful. I've grown cheesemanii, which is a lovely yellow one, and this is new to me. This is an heirloom Canadian variety called Petit Moineau.
So there you have it, 9 different crops we think here at Epic Gardening that we absolutely love and should be in everyone's garden. And a little quick bonus for you, calendula. This can be used in the garden beautifully, in the kitchen incredibly, and actually the chickens like it a lot. It darkens their yolk, so a little bonus for you. But if there's something you think we missed, let me know down in the comments. What is a must grow in your garden? And until next time, good luck in the garden and keep on growing.